Hello and welcome to Real Film Gaming. Today, I'm talking about Titanfall 2. It's been a while since I played a proper first-person shooter with a good old campaign. I got Titanfall 2 without much real knowledge or expectations. I'd heard a few good things, but that was about it. And I enjoyed games like this when I was younger, so I thought, why not give it a go? So it's Titanfall 2, I take it there must be a first one. A quick Google search. There is a first one, but it was only out on Xbox. Explains why I didn't hear about it. Anyway, you don't need to play that one to play this one, so there's no problems there. The opening's pretty cool. It tells us about the pilots, the elite of the elite. This opening alone got me pretty excited for the game. Yeah, it's a cutscene and they can be misleading, but there seem to be some pretty cool action and ways to take down your enemies. I was looking forward to see if the gameplay actually delivered on this. Oh, and before people start saying, all of this has been done before in this game and that game, I haven't played a proper first-person shooter since Call of Duty Modern Warfare, so give me a break. It uses the pretty cliche mechanic of having you run a timed obstacle course to 1. Get you used to the buttons and techniques involved in the game, and 2. Estimate a difficulty level. It tried to set mine at medium. Cheers Titanfall. I put it as hard because I like a challenge, but I could have done with going on top difficulty. I didn't really find any part of this game overly difficult. The most I died in any specific part was 2 or 3 times, and usually that's me messing about jumping off things. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, I'm not that great at games, but I did find this game relatively easy. That being said, I did really enjoy this game. It's very black and white, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, but there's something to be said about being a badass soldier that can take on 20 enemies on his own. The gameplay is pretty solid, but nowadays there's no excuse for sloppy mechanics, so that's a given. I got stuck in pretty quickly and blasted through a few levels. There's 2 distinct modes of combat used. Pilot mode, where you're basically a dude with some cool gadgets and a gun, and Titan mode, where you're a badass humanoid robot with cool gadgets and a gun. I much preferred pilot mode. There are a lot more interesting ways to play the game and take on enemies, whereas when you're in the Titan, it's pretty much blow stuff up with automated weaponry, which, is fun for a little bit, but gets old quite quickly, whereas I never got bored of playing as the pilot. The story is pretty basic. You're an ordinary soldier who's dreaming of being a pilot, and during a mission you crash land far away from the rendezvous point. As you try and find your way there, you come across your mentor, a pilot, but you're overrun. Captain Lassimo is killed, his Titan damaged. In his last act, he transfers authorization to use the Titan onto you. And guess what? You've got a pretty good knack for being a pilot. From here on out, it's pretty straightforward. You've got to regroup with the militia and help them take on the IMC. Standard first-person shooter stuff. As I said, the gameplay's solid, and there's a lot of cool ways to take on enemies, especially when there's a huge bunch of them. Every few missions, there's a new mechanic added to keep the game fresh. Special mentions go to the mission set in a massive, ever-changing production line, and the mission set in a research facility where you jump back and forth in time to defeat enemies and avoid obstacles. The research facility one in particular is a very cool mechanic and is the best level in the game. Like most games, there are boss battles, but I didn't find these overly exciting or difficult, and for some reason they all decided to start with a strange close-up on the boss that you're actually fighting, and it felt really out of place for this game. Each one was a Titan fight, which, as I said, was one of my least favourite parts of the game, as it offered little diversity, and the bosses weren't much different. They were all very similar, and there wasn't a progression in difficulty from one to the next. There was only one that really offered something different, and that was only the fact that he could fly. I like this game a lot, and it's one I think I'll dip in and out of when I fancy a bit of fun, and although it's quite short, it feels like they've decided to really think out each level properly, rather than regurgitating the same levels every single time just to make a longer game. I got around to a bit of the online play and it seems solid enough, but I've not really played enough to pass judgment. Overall, I think I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it a lot and it had some cool ideas and game mechanics, but I could have done with a bit more of a challenge and something slightly more original for the story. If you've enjoyed this video, there's a number of ways you can support us. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, or head over to our blog on WordPress. You can also listen and subscribe to our weekly film and TV podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. But if you're after something a bit more visual, why not stick here on YouTube and check out some of our Let's Play series. And if you really like this video, you can head over to our Patreon account and leave a small donation to help us keep up our output. All of the links can be found in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.